Hi everyone, hello, welcome. Welcome to this webinar with Witekio, Edge Impulse and NXP. My name is Georgie and I'm going to be your host today, and our lovely speakers will introduce themselves in a moment. We're literally just going to wait a minute so that more people can join, because not everyone is as punctual as you guys. But if you give us a minute, and then we will get started and dig into all the lovely content that we have for you today. So yes. But welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Nice and bright and early. Hi, Robert. I can see you saying hi in the chat. Thanks for coming. Hi, everyone. More people joining, which is lovely. Welcome. Okay, I'm going to get started, because if people miss the beginning, it's fine. It's my bit and it's not the experts, so we're fine. Hi, everyone. As I said, my name is Georgie Ryan-Casling. I'm the head of partnerships and marketing for Witekio, and welcome to this lovely webinar all about AI-powered medical devices, leveraging AI and predictive maintenance. This webinar is in partnership with Edge Impulse and NXP, and we have speakers from each of those companies who are going to talk you through a range of things. So very quickly, very quickly, I promise, I'm just going to explain who Witekio are if you've never met us before, because I know that NXP and Edge Impulse are super huge companies and we may not be that well known to you. Essentially, we are an embedded software application and connectivity company, software services company. We cover chip-to-cloud platforms, and we are partners with NXP and Edge Impulse, and we have offices across Europe and obviously the US. We cover a whole range of industries, from public vending machines to home appliances and medical devices, obviously, given the subject of today. So if you're watching and you're not maybe from a medical background, but you're really interested in AI and predictive maintenance, don't worry, we can help as well, as can NXP and Edge Impulse. And as I said, we cover chip to cloud. What does that mean? Everything from your low level all the way to your applications, up to cloud connectivity, long-term maintenance, and beyond. That's it. Super quick from me. So I am going to hand you off in a second, when I do the agenda, of course, to our speakers. And this is just basically covering what everyone's going to talk about. So from NXP is going to go first, kicking off with the hardware, talking about basically how to choose the right MX platforms and application processes for your medical design. Then straight in with our tooling with Edge Impulse, talking about how to scale and the Edge Impulse offerings that can bring your medical device to life. And then Witekio to round it all off with the software, how to assemble it, so how to actually use it and then maintain it. And then a live Q&A at the end. If you're new to StreamYard and you've never used it, there is a comments chat button, this side, that you can ask all your questions on, and we will answer them live at the end. So please do answer your questions throughout the webinar, and our experts will be answering them at the very end for you. So don't worry. So with that, I'm going to hand you off to our speakers to introduce themselves. Adrian, would you please go first?
Absolutely. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Adrian. I'm a solution director at Witekio. I'm based in Seattle, and I'm happy to talk today about Edge AI and how we can help you build the right solution.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet everyone on this webinar. My name is Zin Chaw, Director of Solutions Engineering at Edge Impulse. My team represents the customer-facing arm of Edge Impulse, the tip of the spear, as they may say. We're the ones in the trenches, seeing firsthand how customers are deploying AI at the edge, what they value, and what challenges they face in their journey towards production.
And that leaves me. I'm Ali Ors, the Global Director for NXP's AI strategy and technologies across all our microcontroller and processor portfolio of devices. So thank you very much, Georgie, and look forward to the content that we're going to be sharing today. Just very quickly, this is about NXP offers, let's say, the hardware layer and the basic SDK and some enablement software layers above that in the flow. that we have, and where, just as a reminder of where NXP really plays in terms of edge processing. If we look at the general intelligence pyramid, as we call it, at the top we have all these large cloud centers, all the big aggregators like AWS, Google, etc., offering solutions and servers and high performance compute. NXP plays below that in actually getting AI and getting compute into truly edge devices. And we have some play in networking, but really our main focus is the true application edge. So this is IoT endpoints, this is industrial endpoints, automotive endpoints, in wearables, in robotics, even the vehicles in automotive. We see that as the true edge, fully deployed solutions, and the largest part, the base of the pyramid, is what we aim to serve in terms of our portfolio. And of course, to serve that, you need a very scalable portfolio to cover that large flow and amount of devices in the mix. For that, our portfolio covers what we call the intelligent edge, and can be categorized into three pillars. So we have the traditional microcontrollers with our MCX lineup, for example, specific in industrial and IoT use cases, which we see medical as also in that domain. So the traditional microcontrollers with real-time OS capabilities, leveraging ARM IP in terms of the CPU, so the Cortex-M cores, embedded flash for storage. And then we have what NXP calls the crossover MCUs. So these are the i.MX RT lineup, and we have a new member that I'll be touching on today in that family with the i.MX RT700 that just got announced this week, that I'm very excited about because of its AI capabilities and what it brings into that microcontroller component within the portfolio. And here you have advanced DSP functionality, still Cortex-M core, still RTOS based, but you have advanced 3D, 2D graphics and additional capabilities. And then on the higher end of our portfolio, we have our applications processors, starting with the i.MX 6 lineup. Now we're at the i.MX 9 family, still going very strong. Interestingly, the i.MX 6, 8, 8M, and now the 9 family is going very strong in terms of what it brings. These are the Linux boxes or Linux capable devices, very heterogeneous compute capability with full-fledged GPUs, DSPs, cluster of CPUs, and what really ties it in terms of the AI piece is that in each of these categories, now I can say that we have dedicated acceleration for machine learning. We do enable the CPUs, the DSPs, and GPUs, like the existing compute cores in the mix, but now more and more with the workloads going towards AI needs in all fields, medical also being one of them, we see a need for added AI capability, and this is where we're offering a solution in each of these categories now in our family, and more to come with a dedicated accelerator for AI specifically in the form of an NPU. If we look at everywhere we play, but more on the right side of this slide. So for industrial focused applications, we see medical and healthcare kind of fall into both industrial and IoT consumer devices. So if we look at it from an industrial mindset, we see it in patient monitoring and instrumentation, and the whole portfolio that I presented just now with the MCX MCUs, crossover i.MX RT, microcontrollers, and the apps processors can be targeted depending on the application for healthcare. Similarly, from an IoT edge focus, where health and fitness does benefit from very low power and efficient compute, like in wearables, in biometric tracking, exercise equipment, sleep health, and home medical assistance. We do have members of that portfolio, processing portfolio, that do fit into that realm, especially with the RT 500, 600, and now 700 devices, i.MX 8 ULP, so ultra low power, and some other devices in the i.MX 9 apps processor family. And I'll be touching on some of these more towards the next slides. when it comes to AI, we're very focused on offering ease of use to our users. And that comes in also from our collaborations with Witekio and Edge Impulse as well. And the way we approach it at NXP, from what we offer as the processor vendor or the hardware offer in that mix, is that we've gone towards a unified software portfolio of tools. So when you're using a device within our portfolio, be it a microcontroller, a crossover micro, or an apps processor, we aim to unify the AI software and what we offer, as well as the runtime components within the SDK and the BSP, the board support packages that we launch with RTOS or Linux, as well as we've gone towards a unification in terms of our hardware acceleration architecture. So we do have some devices that leverage third-party IP in terms of the NPU, but as I'll share, a lot of our future devices leverage an internal developed NPU architecture called the EIQ Neutron NPU, which gives both an ease of use in terms of leveraging the same tooling, but also longevity and better support in the market, because medical does need longevity in terms of the supply and quality as well. So this allows us in a very fast-moving domain like AI to offer software solutions as models get updated, new models come out, and we're better able to support our customers in this field. The overall AI software stack, the way we see it, we're trying to enable our customers to work whichever way they prefer. So it's about coming in potentially with your own data, what we call the bring your own data flow. You can bring in data sets, augment these, select and optimize a model, and deploy it with the EIQ software tools, or bring a model and convert it. And we've worked with other players like NVIDIA with a Tau toolkit integration ourselves. But one of the key messages that I want to give to our users out there is that NXP is not looking to lock you in to the NXP infrastructure. We're very aware that there are other options, or you might prefer to use your own tools. You might have existing networks. You might have existing engagements and preferred tools and scripts that you leverage, and that's where partners like Edge Impulse come in. You're able to use Edge Impulse tools on top of the software SDK that NXP offers. You're able to use Tau models and import them in through NXP's tooling or through Edge Impulse's tooling, and you're able to work with other partners like Witekio in building out your application stack as needed. So we're very open to take as much or as little as you need from the NXP side, as long as you're on top of NXP hardware, and that's where you'll get the most benefit and optimization. And we also support all the compute engines. So it's not just the NPU focus or just the CPU. If there is a good performance possible for AI workloads out of the DSP or the GPU in the devices where those exist, we also enable those in the mix of compute engines available for the end user. And we complement this around the inference engines that can run. Of course, that's the runtime component. There's command line and graphical user interfaces or tie-ins to tooling from partners like Edge Impulse. But we also complement the AI aspect with what we call pipelines. So the ML model is not standalone in a sense in what is given. So you need to build out an application, and we realize that there's a sensor input to that. There's some pre-processing and post-processing, and we try to enable the whole pipeline flow for you, as well as offer through our application code hub, ACH, that you can check out, a way to access some of the code that NXP provides for specific applications. That's the software side. I wanted to touch on the hardware acceleration as well. As I mentioned early on, we do have now in the overall portfolio, in the microcontrollers, crossover micros, and apps processors, devices that have dedicated NPUs. The purple boxes here are devices that we've used external IP vendor IP cores for the acceleration. Very good engagements there with VeriSilicon and ARM in terms of the i.MX 8M Plus and the i.MX 9.3. Our devices that use the neutron core, which is something that NXP has developed internally through our own labs, and we've deployed now in silicon into the MCX-N Micro, the i.MX 9.5 apps processor, and just recently this week to the i.MX RT700 crossover MCU is the way we're looking at filling out the rest of this this chart, leveraging at different scales versions of that core and into next generation i.MX 9 family members with larger and compute and acceleration as we go on. The apps processors, right now we're in the i.MX 9 family. We have the 9.5, 9.3, and the 9.1 out there. All of these are part of our longevity program. And I'm just going to briefly touch on a few key members of these device families, just to call out some of their key AI and compute capabilities. We have the 9.5 now available and sampling, where it has a 6-core A55 multi-core complex and a 2 TOPS at a gigahertz NPU, advanced GPU graphics, and multi-camera capability. So this is the high end of our current available device lineup to build more capable medical devices with essential HMI capabilities. Then we have the i.MX 9.3, which is a more compact essential compute with machine learning added to it. It does offer a dual core A55 cluster again, and has, as I mentioned, an ARM Ethos U65 NPU at a half top range in a gigahertz. So very capable, small package in terms of building out devices for diagnostics, etc. in the medical field. Another member of the family, which I like a lot because of that ultra low power wearable type of aspect that it has. It's a very low power, potentially human machine interface type of device. Doesn't have an accelerator, an NPU, but as I mentioned, we do enable the Cortex-A cores or the DSPs available in our clusters. So this is where it can be used for battery powered industrial or lab electronic type of devices in wearables. It has been deployed in some of these fields already in this mix. And I know we'll be sharing these slides. That's why I'm going through them fast, just to highlight some of the key elements that we have. And I wanted to, of course, mention the RT700, which I think will be a game changer device in the field of microcontrollers with AI. We've built this with a modest NPU, I'd say, but we're seeing upwards of 150, 170, 200x acceleration compared to the CPU in a microcontroller class device of what it's capable of doing. And part of its real enablement towards AI is a very large SRAM, at 7.5 megabytes of on-chip SRAM, which provides a lot of capability in this class of device. So higher integration, very good power consumption, and AI capabilities to really bring it together in wearables, in smart glasses, and other medical applications for smart home and smart diagnostic use cases. So we're very excited about the possibilities for this device in our portfolio. As I mentioned, it really gives a big boost compared to the typical microcontroller in this domain to add AI capabilities to be deployed into the medical side. I want to wrap up really about why we're really excited about this. And when we look at TinyML or we look at ML capabilities in general in this domain, healthcare with the ability to offer care in place and patient monitoring, medical instrumentation. So ML is going to be key. We're seeing that in general, AI-enabled edge devices is a very fast-growing field, and our portfolio is really out there to enable this, and all the software layers that we have above that to enable you to build with our partners or on your own quite a lot of capability into these devices. And with that, I'll hand off to Zin to talk about our partnership with Edge Impulse and how to build on top of this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ali. What an impressive lineup you've got there. Can't wait to see what's in store for our developers. Again, my name is Zin Cha. I'm from Edge Impulse, and I want to spend a little bit of time introducing Edge Impulse here. So we are the leading Edge AI platform, enabling you to create and deploy production optimized Edge AI algorithms and machine learning models to any device under the sun, from MCUs to GPUs, as Ali mentioned. We're absolutely delighted to be partnering with NXP and Witekio to enable the delivery of best-in-class solutions for medical applications leveraging Edge AI. It's really an exciting time right now as we are at a major inflection point in the industry where Edge AI is now shipping in production devices. We're well past that early adoption or hype phase, and Gartner is even predicting an acceleration in Edge AI deployments by 2026. Edge Impulse is well positioned to help you scale towards production and beyond, as Edge AI is helping transform businesses in ways they used to only imagine possible. There's momentum building for leveraging Edge AI in wearables, or the tiny machines, using biosensor data that can help you monitor and do the best with your body and mind. Wearables can do more with Edge AI to help you manage stress, fatigue, and help you guard against falls. But let's not forget about the big machines too. We're also leveraging industrial sensors for predictive maintenance of MRI machines, X-ray scanners, etc. For example, using temperature, pressure, and humidity sensors to understand when MRI machines need to be serviced before major problems are encountered and downtimes become unmanageable. Edge Impulse really allows your development teams to efficiently manage your Edge AI and machine learning pipelines, from data ingestion to deployment, and every other step along the way, such as leveraging state-of-the-art DSP algorithms and best-in-class machine learning model architectures, ultimately enabling you as the professional developer to create the most efficient and production-optimized model to run on your device of choice from NXP. We also have a mantra here at Edge Impulse, and that is bring any sensor, any data, any use case. With our platform, we can help you achieve your goals in the most optimized fashion. As you can see here in this graphic, we cover the full spectrum of sensor modalities and provide the ability to even leverage sensor fusion techniques. But most importantly, doing it in the smallest footprint possible, which is important for the impact it has on BOM cost, inference speed, and power consumption. These are the three major areas that are constantly being optimized by the world's leading medical device manufacturers. Now you might ask, how do I do that? Well, it's very simple. We give you the tools and the metrics right in the platform so you can be informed not only about how well your model will perform on device, but the resources being utilized. These values change automatically depending on the target hardware you choose. We call this hardware-aware optimization. And that's really important in achieving best-in-class on-device performance. In addition, we give you the right tools to fine-tune your algorithms, automatically finding the best permutation of DSP and machine learning blocks that fits the performance criteria you value most. It could be flash, RAM, or inference speed, or any combination of those three things. Our Eon performance tuner will automatically guide you to the sweet spot. Furthermore, our Eon compiler delivers a code footprint that saves up to 70% of RAM and 40% of flash compared to standard industry frameworks such as TensorFlow Lite. Now, let's look at some of the innovations we've published within our platform to help create the next generation of Edge AI-enabled medical devices. The first is our heart rate and heart rate variability algorithms, a fundamental basis for providing additional intelligence for wearables. First, we provide a PPG/ECG to IBI, or intrabeat interval library, that allows you to take PPG/ECG sensor data and derive intrabeat intervals, or the time between heartbeats. Second, we provide an HRV feature extraction library, which offers insights into various aspects of our health, including cardiovascular health, stress levels, fitness and recovery, and help us understand if our autonomic nervous system is in balance. The autonomic nervous system is the network in your body that controls a lot of your basic organ functions. Now, of course, these derived signals are only as good as the quality of the source. And so we've also added native support for motion artifact removal of the PPG ECG signals using accelerometer readings. Best of all, our library takes up only 20K of flash and 1.6K of RAM, making it possible to use this library on almost any device on the planet. Next up, we are seeing the use of FOMO, or what's known as faster objects, more objects. This is our own Edge Impulse designed object detection algorithm for applications like pill counting and defect inspection, as well as applications that can transform the operational efficiency of the operating room, such as ensuring that surgical tools inventory is automatically managed. The key strengths of FOMO is that it is very fast, very fast. It's enabling true object detection on microcontrollers at sustained frame rates of 15 to 30 frames per second. And on embedded Linux targets, forget about it. It is your ticket to riding on the inference Autobahn. We also recently released a close cousin of FOMO, what we call FOMO AD, for visual anomaly detection. This greatly simplifies algorithm development, as you only need to feed your model known good images for training. It does the heavy lifting for you and identifies the anomalous regions that you care about. This can really shine, for example, in applications where you have to review a large volume of medical scans, such as MRI reports, X-rays, and CTs. One of the issues we have in medical industry today in terms of bottlenecks is being able to go through a lot of these scans in volume. This is where Edge AI can help us do that in record time. Then at NVIDIA GTC this year, we announced a couple of key integrations with NVIDIA. First, with NVIDIA Tau, bringing in the best of its foundational pre-trained computer vision models. We leverage these as transfer learning models, allowing you to blend it with your own custom data set and making it seamless to deploy on any hardware of your choice, as well as chips from NXP. For the first time ever, we can also deploy these NVIDIA Tau models on MCUs, microcontrollers, which is a game changer in terms of providing access to a class of chips that can be used for medical devices that leverage computer vision. Second, we've launched integration with NVIDIA Omniverse to enable the use of their digital twin simulation platform for creating synthetic data for optimizing the quality of computer vision models. We all know that AI models are only as good as the data set. The challenge is that collecting the right data set and curating it from the physical world can be an expensive and laborious task. NVIDIA Omniverse plus the Edge Impulse plugin we've developed allows us to ingest images that have been created within Omniverse and then use that directly to augment the data we've gathered from the physical world. This drastically speeds up the development time, but also the time to market. Finally, once you've done all the hard work to build your custom model using Edge Impulse, we've made it seamless to deploy to any NXP silicon of your choosing. Here are the current NXP hardware platforms that we support that deliver the best out-of-box experience. I've provided links here that will take you to the appropriate Edge Impulse tutorial page. Please visit docs.edgeimpulse.com for additional documentation on how to get started with Edge Impulse. We're super excited to see what you guys are going to develop. Now I'll pass it on to Adrian from Witekio, who will discuss how to put it all together and create best-in-class solutions using NXP and Edge Impulse. Adrian?
Awesome. Thank you, Zin. And happy to continue that conversation. I think both NXP, Edge Impulse together really bring a great workflow, great set of tools and workflow. And I'll try to tie it together into like how you can basically assemble that within the time that we have available to guide you to the next phase. So let's get started. So as I mentioned, you have these two components that you're starting with: AI-enabled hardware, NXP-based, your AI solution and workflow, which is also pretty important. It's not only the framework that you have, it's the workflow. So training, deploying, and building and deploying on your devices. What is missing to bring it together? The goal is to find something that would be flexible and easy to maintain, and that's what we will dive into. So if we zoom in just a bit more, as I mentioned, we have your AI workflow, model runtime, AI-enabled hardware. The two main components that will be the glue to put all this together on the device will be the OS that you have on your embedded platform and the application. For the presentation of today, we will mainly focus on the OS and the integration for long-term support. There is a lot that we can talk about for application, but the OS will be more of our focus. And really, if we talk operating system for medical, there are two main set of concern that we see. The first one is obviously the functional safety. You want your device to function and to function well from a safety standpoint. It needs to be very predictable and with that level of reliability for medical. Sorry. Along with safety comes real time, making sure you have a predictable latency for your system, as well as sometimes low power consumption. On the other side, you have the other goal, which is like providing a great user experience for users. So a good user interface, something that looks modern, dynamic, things like multimedia features, so audio, video, and sometimes even connectivity. And really, those are two separate concerns. And when it makes sense, and if it's possible for you, you can, and you probably should definitely separate those into two different pieces that you can manage separately. A safety-specific OS, which will typically be an RTOS, and a richer OS, which in our case would be Linux-based. If you're running on an NXP application processor, as Ali was mentioning, for example, like the IMX93, you have different types of cores within that processor already. The Cortex M33, the Cortex A55, which both let you run these two systems in parallel. And when it comes to what we typically recommend, the two main ones are Zephyr on the RTOS side and Yocto on the ReachOS side. And I'll talk a bit more why and why it makes sense specifically on a medical device. So the first one, Zephyr on the left, you probably have heard about it. There are other alternatives. There are a ton of different RTOS you can use: FreeRTOS, FredX, SafeRTOS if you go more into pre-certified OSs. The big advantage that we see with Zephyr is that, of course, it is open source. It has a very modern RTOS in the way it was designed, very extensive suite of tests, meaning that you can leverage those tests for all your validation, extend those to test your feature on your hardware. So for example, simulating GPIOs or simulating I2C devices. And it has 2.5 years long-term support versions. The second one, Yocto, on the ReachOS and so Linux side, open source as well. It is basically the industry standard if you're looking for an open source distribution or build system for distribution for ReachOS. The long-term support is 4 years. And for the kernel, you have different alternatives, but that ranges from 4 years for the mainline to 10 years for the CIP project of Linux. All that to say, when you're working on a medical device, as previously mentioned, you're looking at long term. We're not talking 5-year device and then it's throwaway. We're talking 15 to 30 years support. And this is why those different pieces are important to come together and to help you build that. Being open source and having long-term support versions. And if you're looking at those different tools and open source, you have, as you're building, so you'll be doing the design phase, and as you start your product, you'll be basically, that will be the current window for your long-term support version for your OS. At the end of that support, as you've seen, this is smaller than 15, 2.5 and 4 are still below the 15 to 30 years. The thing is that you'll have two different choices. The first one will be to hop to the next long-term version, of course. The benefit from that is that you get all the security fixes, the bug fixes, and all that from that new long-term support version of OS. The second one is that you get a very good opportunity to reuse that code, that base that you build across products. Because you know that if you build a product, most likely it's not just one product in isolation, but you have different devices where if you can share software, if you can share the work that has been done, this is much better in terms of cost and effort over the long run. The second alternative that you have is to just maintain that long-term support version, that older one in-house, and essentially avoid the cost of the validation of hopping to a new version. Because if you change the OS, you'll have to revalidate your device to a larger degree. Now, the good thing is, compared to another solution, open source gives you that choice. At the end of that 2.4-year window, 4-year window, you get that opportunity to say, okay, what do we want to do? What makes more sense? Do we want to just upgrade and be able to reuse that? Or do we want to just keep things simple, avoid that validation cost, and stick to that whole OS and maintain it? And this is one of the main value that open source gives you. Now, this is a talk about AI and edge AI. So let's switch to that now that we have that base and clarify a bit that. And the first question is, okay, what can you use? How can you leverage AI on these different components? And really, we're still falling into the same concern, to the same functionality. On your low power and safety side, you still want to have the functional safety. And so around functional safety, you have condition monitoring and a goal overall to reduce that downtime, making sure that your device is safe. On the Reach OS side, still the same goal of improving the user experience. So you're using it for medical diagnostics. You can still use it for condition monitoring, maybe security. And those different use cases will also tend to match the power that you have available for these two different OSs. Low power for safety OS, and typically higher power, higher resources available for your Reach OS. And continuing to that, and to also maybe connect a bit with what Zain was saying, it is very important to keep your target in mind. Because if you are developing for a microcontroller or a crossover microcontroller, your available memory, so storage and RAM, is so much smaller than if you are developing on a computer and desktop computer. So during the development cycle, it is critical to know what you're targeting and to build for that. If you're working with PyTorch, for example, which is very famous nowadays, PyTorch is huge in comparison to TensorFlow Lite and can absolutely not fit on a microcontroller. Now, you have ways to convert model back and forth, but you need to keep that in mind. And a good thing about Edge Impulse is that it will help you build the right output for these different devices. So you don't have to think about that too much. It provides a workflow to do all of that and to give you an output, something you can deploy for a microcontroller or a microprocessor. Continuing to take a specific example of condition monitoring, just to give you some more examples, and again, that resonates a bit with what Zin was talking about, there are different things you can monitor to get an idea of what's going wrong or what's going right on your device. You can absolutely monitor your environment in terms of EMI, the input power that you have. For moving parts, current, vibration, temperature, and sound are a great indicator of what's happening on the device and if something is likely to fail. For other devices and parts that are not moving, like for example specific ICs or even a software side, you can use the current to some degree, temperature, but as well as visual and thermal information and system events. An example of that is if you detect bus errors, for example, something that goes wrong on your I2C bus, those insights are actually key to detect maybe something's happening and part of the system is failing and you're essentially having errors on the bus because of that. And in 3 steps for condition monitoring, the first part will be to collect data on the device, say for example for current and vibration, and to visualize that online. Again, if you use Edge Impulse, collecting is very easy. You have tools made for that to be able to collect and upload this data directly to your platform. Visualizing is the same. You'll be able to see the correlation between different points and what information really provides. The second part being the training and evaluation. Again, you can do that online and very easy with Edge Impulse. And the last part for the compilation integration, basically you have your model ready, you know that it performs well, just need to deploy it to your device and integrate it. And that will be in the form of an executable, essentially your model that you can execute for either your RTOS or Linux. And one good point that Zin was mentioning is there is something that people not always know, which is anomaly detection. Often I hear that essentially customers, OEMs, having difficulties being able to capture data in terms of something is going wrong and we want to train for that. You don't have to train for that scenario where things go wrong if you don't have the data. You can just use anomaly detection. The idea is that you collect data when things go well, and you detect that something is abnormal. And that will give you that insight that there's might be something that is failing, and at least raise a warning or use the information to try to, for example, prompt your customer to either reach out to your team or execute some tests, some automated tests on the device. So if you don't have the data when things are failing, you still have options in the AI space to detect when things not go right. And the last part that we want to talk about is how to minimize the outside impact of AI. And when we mean outside impact, we mean impact on the validation that you'll have to do for a device. We know that test and validation for medical device is hard. There's a lot of things to do. It is costly. So the point is, how can we reduce that? And 2 main efforts will help you with that. The main first one is isolating your AI workload at the OS level or at the hardware level. At the OS level can be something like a light container, which contains your AI model, which is isolated from your OS. At a hardware level, this is basically hardware partitioning, where you assign your AI model to a specific core on your CPU with things like virtualization. The second lever is implementing granular system updates that let you update only the AI components of your system to be able to justify that it has no impact outside of that one component to your system. So if we take that simple example of having your condition monitoring on a specific core, in that case running on Yocto, for example, that would look something like that, where you have your safety application on the safety OS on one side, your rich OS running on Cortex A55, and essentially your AI model being isolated on a specific core and unable to affect the other ones. The main advantage of that, you limit the impact, you limit the risk. That will also allow faster iteration for both development and deployment. Typically, if that's the first time that you're deploying AI for your platform, you might not be exactly sure of what works, what doesn't in production. If you separate it, you can update it independently from the rest and at a higher frequency than the rest of your software. The risk that you might have, and this is where working with NXP and Edge Impulse is important, is if you do that the wrong way, you might lose the hardware acceleration. This is just to be transparent. There are solutions today, but this is one of the risks that you have in trying to isolate it essentially in, for example, a specific VM and why you need to be careful. But overall, to tie it together, if you have AI-enabled hardware and use the SDK provided by NXP, if you have and use the workflow provided by AGI for data acquisition, training, deployment, and then a proper OS solution for long-term maintenance in your application, what that gives you is a high-value product in the end, a future-proof solution that does the work that you can update in the future, and that will work for medical device. And with that, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Zin. Do we have any questions? We've had some come over emails, but if anyone who's watching would like to ask some questions live, please do in the box, in the chat comment here. To get us started, I've got one for Zin. So how can you run NVIDIA Tower models on NXP Silicon? Or that might be for Ali or both of you.
Yeah,
I'll let Zin take it, and I'll add to it.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier in the session, we've done this nice integration, brought in these NVIDIA Tower models, foundational models. Literally with a few clicks, button clicks, you can deploy an NVIDIA Tower model with your own custom data set to any device that you're choosing. Also specifically from the NXP lineup, from MCUs to GPUs. So it's all integrated into Edge Impulse in the platform. So it's really just our normal computer vision workflow. Select one of the NVIDIA Tower model architectures, and you're good to go.
I mean, it saves you from all of that training costs, let's say. So it's a pre-trained known entity in terms of the model. And the tooling from NVIDIA to fine-tune into your own context, the ability from Edge Impulse or NXP to deploy it onto the NXP devices allows you to leverage that. It's kind of like standing on the shoulder of giants type of analogy, where you do have that pre-trained model, and you just need to do a bit more if you wanted to fine-tune it to your own needs, but gives a faster path to deploying a very powerful vision-based model on Edge hardware.
Perfect. I've got a question, Adrian. I think this one's for you. What update solution would you use to update the AI model? You're on mute, my love.
Sorry. It will depend a bit on what OS and everything that's available. That can range from using essentially online solution like Azure and AWS to deploy containers locally and to update that container that contains your AI solution, to much more custom workflow where you're using things like ROC, SW update, or Mender on the next side to update either part of your application or the whole system. So those are a few examples of how to deploy it. And for each piece, you'll have ways to customize it and way to also have visibility in the cloud, like dashboards, to automate part of the workflow.
Perfect. Ali, we've had a question from Robert. I don't want to get you in trouble and I don't want to get in trouble, so let's keep it clean and nice. The question is, how does any NXP compare to Nordic semiconductor platforms? I'm guessing this is specifically for AI. If there's any USPs that you can point out.
I think what I can point out is I'm not aware of within the Nordic portfolio anything that has a dedicated accelerator, let's say. So that would be one clear differentiator in what we're offering. So we do have devices with and without and everything in between. Much larger portfolio in terms of both microcontrollers and apps processors, definitely compared to Nordic. I mean, everybody in this environment has something to offer. I think we do offer a very broad portfolio and a very comprehensive software stack, both from NXP and from our partners to complement that and to make sure that you're bringing out all of that capability of the hardware out into the applications. With the EIQ software component, with the hardware acceleration that I mentioned, as well as the integrations to advanced tooling from partners like Edge Impulse and the OS options that Adrian mentioned from Witekio.
Like a true politician there. That was beautiful.
I kept it very clean.
It was great. Thank you so much. Okay, another question. Zin, can you run multiple models with Edge Impulse?
Yes, you definitely can. It is something we call multi-impulse. In fact, we have a very good tutorial example on our documentation website. So as I mentioned earlier, docs.edgeimpulse.com. Perfect place to get started with Edge Impulse. Create a free account. Go look at one of our tutorials. We have the multi-impulse tutorial as well. So this is where you get into potentially sensor fusion techniques as well. Let's say you want to run an audio model plus a time series sensor model together. We show you how to do that. Or perhaps you want to run multiple computer vision models in tandem or do some sort of cascading design. We show you how to do that as well.
Perfect. Ali, so what is NXP doing in terms of support for LLMs and Gen I models? So is it realistic to run LLMs on embedded processors?
Now more so. There are a few announcements that are even very fresh this week. So when the whole ChatGPT and LLM piece came out maybe a year and a half ago, it was quite challenging to trickle that down into an edge device or an embedded device. A lot of these models were very large. Just to give an example, I mean, if we're talking about a lot of models are rated by their parameter size. We have models out there with 30 billion plus. Things like ChatGPT in its variations are multiple models in the multiple billions of parameters that work together off of a cloud solution. But now we're seeing very good results out of small and medium-sized language models. So 1 billion to 10 billion type of range that needs to fit into memory. So you have advanced quantization methodologies that you can deploy to fit things into embedded and get very good token generation rates. And we are now deploying that on devices like the IONIX 9.5. We've demonstrated it at Embedded World last year, and we have a few more things coming, cooking in the kitchen, let's say, from our side of bringing that out, both for LLMs and vision language models or mixed modality generative AI models. I think this is quite exciting space to be in, and it's going to actually change the way AI is deployed into the edge. We think that it's going to create a lot of opportunities around human-machine interface with natural conversation and operator, interactions with machinery in various use cases.
Amazing. If there's no other questions that I can see, I just want to say to anyone who's watching this on demand, if you have any questions, you can reply to I will send directly after this the link to the recording and the slides. If you have any questions, you can email back to us and I will distribute them to NXP and to Edge Impulse to make sure that they have everything. In the slides, as you can see, Adrian's just gone to the next slide. Thank you. We're also going to have the links, and on Zin's slide is his links to all of the platforms that they're talking about that you can look and see. So everything will be given to you, and hopefully you've learned a lot from this. The only thing I have to do now is thank our lovely speakers. Thank you so much, Adrian, Zin, and Ali, for your time and for your expertise. And thank you, everyone, for watching, and have a lovely day.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.